Hello and welcome to Expert Link and me, David Ford, and ACEs ain't always ace. So ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. We're going to talk a little bit about the framework, where it's come from, and we're going to talk about some of the challenges that we think there are with it. So for a big question for us is this ACEs framework re-traumatising and stigmatising people? There's two important things to note though before we dive into all of that. The first one is about humanity, because as a race of humans, when we have kids as parents, what we want them to have is the best experiences. We want them to have the best education, best experiences, best food that we can afford, best, and we want them to be the best that they can be when they get into adulthood. You know, grow up to be the best that we want. Now that's strikes through all cultures and creeds and colours and religions. That's a human thing. I think the second thing to note is that at Expert Link we really are advocates for linking that childhood experience and that adult behaviour. So Expert Link, as a national organisation that is the respected voice of those with who have suffered or suffering multiple disadvantage, combinations of homelessness, mental illness, substance and alcohol misuse, victims of abuse and domestic violence, people caught in the criminal justice system, and cutting through all of that poverty, being the respective voice of those and wanting to create positive change. When we go out to our network nationally, what we hear, childhood experiences, adult behaviour, all of the time. Personally, I co-authored Hard Edges, which mapped out multiple disadvantages in England. And when we went out and did the peer research, what we heard from 86% of the people was childhood experiences, adult behaviour. Everyone was linking what was happening to their adult, what was happening to them then, to their childhood. So what is the ACEs framework? So this comes from some research which was carried out back in between 1995 and 1997 by some doctors over in America, San Diego, I think it was. And so this doctor's practice put together around about 50 questions. I think it might have even been more than 50 questions, the original set. It was down to 50 questions, and they asked their patients, thousands of them, these questions. It's important to note that their patients were predominantly white, middle class, like 75% of them white, well educated, so universities, colleges, that sort of stuff. They were in good, stable employment. They could afford health insurance, you know, and the average age was 57. So they were born just before World War II, 1938, just before World War II. So that's an important factor, I think. And what they found is when they asked all these 50 questions, was they started to say, well, actually, people who are having these experiences, this is what happened to them in adulthood. We can map that out. There's correlations there. Jump forward to today. Where are we with it? So it's changed a little bit. The questions have gone from 50 questions down to 10, and some might say are subjective. An example would be, one of the questions is, do you or did you ever feel as a child emotionally neglected? I mean, that's a really subjective question, but it gives you 1 point if you say yes. So the point system now is 1 to 10. What research is saying is that about half the country score one or more. But the higher the score, the less of the population. So, and what they're saying is the higher the score, it starts to predict whether you're going to drink, whether you're going to smoke, whether you get caught up in the criminal justice system, whether you're going to commit suicide, whether you're going to get involved in risky behaviour, whether you're going to get cancer, whether you're going to all of these sorts of things. And the higher the number, the worse the outcomes. Absolutely, the worse the outcomes. There's a big drive in across the UK for every child in the country to be screened. There's an all-party parliamentary group been set up in Westminster for ACEs, and it's a really quite a powerful movement at the moment. But where do we sit with it? So what was really important for us as an organisation is, if we're going to talk about it, we experience it. So I did the test and did the research myself. Most of you will know that I have a background of multiple disadvantage, and I suffer from mental illness. I get depression and anxiety, but I manage it. So I did the test and I scored 6. At the time of doing the test, around the same time, a good friend of mine, Ian, passed away. Ian had very much the same life journey as me, and he passed away. And recently, another good friend of ours, Jose, who was on this journey with us, has passed away too. But I did the test and I scored a 6. Now I'm 52, and the test is saying that I'm going to die 20 years younger than the average person. Can you imagine the impact that had on me? The impact on my mental illness? It wasn't good. It wasn't good. But here's the thing: what nobody's talking about is the resilience. They're taking the test scores in isolation. They're not talking about the resilience behind it. I had an incredible group of people around me, a wife, work colleagues, social colleagues and friends, all to support me so that I didn't get, so I could get through it. Lots of people who maybe do the test as adults, and those, especially those with multiple disadvantage, are going to be in isolation. You can imagine the impact on them. Why would they want to engage in services, for starters, if they start to get high scores? Be absolutely awful. I dread it. If scoring 6 and above means that there's a 3,000% more chance you're going to commit suicide. Imagine finding that out when you're in isolation. This is not good. What the Technical and Services Committee at Government at Westminster found, looked at, I'm going to check this out for you, read this out to you. When they did looked into the ACEs stuff, what they said is there is their final report, Evidence-Based Early Years Intervention, said that although there was a correlation, it is no guarantee. Absolutely not. And when the advocates for the ACEs framework, nobody's talking about that. They're just talking about the scores. So what I also find challenging is that most people who score high are going to have multiple disadvantages anyway. And if they go out and they screen every single child, where does that put us? These are people with multiple disadvantage, caught up in poverty, having their children and them scoring high. That's stigmatising and labelling. Already stigmatised and labelled people. We're chucking more labels on top of them. That's absolutely appalling. For us, it's really important that people understand the consequences of using this crude framework to label and stigmatise people. That's really, really important. You know, we started off by talking about as a race that we want the best for our kids. Labelling kids and stigmatising them, or labelling their parents and stigmatising them, isn't the best for our kids. Absolutely not. What we should be doing, what we should absolutely be doing, is inspiring them. Not taking away their aspirations, but inspiring them, showing them how skillful and talented that they are as kids and as parents. Look, if you agree with me on this one, or agree with us at Expert Link, hit the like button, bang the share button. I'd love to hear what your comments are. Should we be stigmatising and labellising people, or should we be inspiring and motivating people, creating real positive social change? If you think yes, thumbs up. Listen, that's enough from me for now. So until next time, stay safe.
Don't give up.